A punishment far worse than the death he deserved. And now, from my Dark Matters collection, I present to you my sentence. My name is Derek Peterson, and I am in the 20th year of a life sentence with no chance of parole. However, I have not spent a single day behind bars, not a minute on death row where I belong. Instead, my punishment is infinitely worse than physical incarceration. Not even solitary could compare with what I have been forced to endure. Now that I have your attention, a little bit about how I got here. It would be too easy to blame my violent nature on the physical abuse I experienced as a child, or the relentless bullying from my classmates in public school. In retrospect, I have no one to blame but Dr. Brian Broca. That nitpicking old codger would still be alive today, if only he had the sense to look the other way during my ICU rotation. If only that old fool had let my slip-up slide, I would have moved on, aced my medical boards, and walked into a 6, maybe 7-figure future. Instead, I was tracked into the last group of violent criminals subjected to psychological imprisonment. I can still remember, as if it happened yesterday, waking up in the recovery room with a row of 8 stainless steel staples on each side of my shaved head. Lurking below those shiny surgical closures, deep in the medial temporal lobe of my brain, is a technology designed to inflict a form of criminal punishment that, at the time, many prophetically called too cruel and too unusual. The surgeons just called them what they were: ENIs, electronic neural implants. In my case, it was a set of 4 chips precisely located in key areas of the limbic system. Our psychological sentences were programmed to meet the severity of our offenses. The cruel and sadistic nature of my crime and my complete lack of remorse resulted in the harshest sentence allowable by law. Can you guess which emotion I have been sentenced to endure forever? To say the least, things did not go well for psychological penal reform. Midway through that experimental year, ENI policymakers were forced to deprogram for suicidal ideations. After 1 year, ENI sentencing was abolished due to the inhumanity of the policy. The punitive manipulation of human emotions is now considered a form of torture, and the original ENI program is still considered one of the darkest periods in the history of American jurisprudence. For those of us who were sentenced under this policy, there was no chance of a reprieve, as the extreme nature of our emotional overload was deemed far too valuable to the scientific community. Thanks to us guinea pigs, advances in positive emotional control technologies are now providing unlimited benefits to people everywhere. It's more than ironic that a handful of irredeemable criminals are unable to feel the redemption that we have earned. Prior to my medical indiscretion, I would occasionally see a driver crying in their car. I felt zero sympathy, but did objectively wonder what could produce such a display of emotion. In a strange and twisted way, this analysis helped fuel many of my sadistic fantasies. Could it be a romantic breakup, or the sudden end of a marriage? The tragic death of a loved one always seemed likely. Maybe they were driving the family dog to the vet to be euthanized. One never really knows what personal tragedy caused those tears to flow. Regardless, the focal point of such heartache is almost always the result of some kind of deeply emotional loss. It always made me thankful that my psychosis made it impossible to feel anything much less gut-wrenching sadness and grief. Little did I know that it would change forever, thanks to that prissy old tattletale, Dr. Brian Broca. Over the 2 decades since my sentencing, I've stopped at countless traffic lights and have been caught in many traffic jams. There's something about driving alone in my car. It remains the one place outside of my home where the pain of constant sorrow physically overwhelms me. I think of all the people who have noticed me crying and have been left wondering what horrible emotional loss I was struggling through. Little could they guess that my eternal, gut-wrenching grief is a prison that I can never escape from. So, if you find yourself in the grip of profound and unrelenting sadness, maybe crying alone in your car, take some solace in knowing that your grief is not a life sentence. The wait is never easy, but time will eventually soften your sadness and ease your anguish. I wish you well on your journey to healing. Thank you for listening.